Welcome to the Goshen News Sports Prep Roundtable. I'm Prep Sports Coordinator Greg Keim, and with me I have this week our newest employee in the Goshen News Sports Department, Stephen Brooks. Stephen, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about your background, where you're from, where you went to school?
Sure, yeah, it's good to be here. My name's Stephen Brooks. I'm from Michigan originally, Kalamazoo, just a little bit up the way there. Went to Michigan State, and the last year or so I've been up at a daily newspaper in Owasso, Michigan, which is tucked between Lansing and Flint, sort of right there in the middle of the state. So this is my second week, just sort of midpoint of the second week. Excited to be here with you guys. Just learning a lot, pretty much every day about the landscape and whatnot. So hopefully, for any viewers or listeners or whatever the case is, hopefully, I can meet you in person coming up soon here.
Okay, great to have you with us, Stephen. And we're not counting the fact against you that you did go to Michigan State, since there's so many Notre Dame fans around here.
I haven't gotten almost any support from Michigan State.
No?
Around here. I thought we had a big alumni base, but not around here. I
Not
guess.
around here, huh?
No.
Okay. And we also have a special guest with us this week, and this is Fairfield High School Athletic Director Mark Hofer. Mark, welcome to the program.
Thanks.
And we want to bring you in this week to chat a little bit about the fall sports programs out at Fairfield this year. Football team's off to a pretty good start. You guys have a big conference game this Friday night with the Angola Hornets coming.
Yeah, it's a big NECC, big school division conference game. Both teams are undefeated, and in the landscape, especially with the big school conference, this is a huge one.
Yeah. How do you like the split between the conference, now the big schools and little schools, since Garrett came back into the league?
I think it's been really advantageous for all the programs, the smaller schools and the bigger schools. Beginning of the season now, we don't have to play conference games the first couple weeks, so that's how Fairfield picked up Goshen. We picked up Northwood, start to develop some rivalries, a little bit closer, bigger size schools to get us prepared for the rest of the season. And I think for the smaller schools, they have the same advantage. They can play schools that are closer to their size, more competitive. In the past, when everybody played each other early in the season, there were some blowouts that just weren't good for programs.
Yeah. I know you went 0 for 2 against Goshen and Northwood this year, but Bob Miller, the coach, was pretty happy with what he thought the kids learned from those. How did you think the games went this year for the Falcons?
I think they were good for us. I gave our kids a chance to really start to see what it's going to take to progress throughout the season in the big school division. And then ultimately, the ultimate goal is the state playoffs, and
Right.
you want to be prepared for that.
Yeah, that should be good preparation for you guys.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of what happened last Friday night, there's no real preparation for a situation like that, is there?
No, we've had situations where we've had weather before.
Yeah.
We have contingency plans, but those are just contingency plans until you actually get to the moment where it's going to happen. You just kind of got to play it by ear, and we were fortunate we were able to play the game without a whole lot of distractions going on.
Yeah.
And the coaches, I've got to give both Bob Miller, our coach, and Monty Mayhorter, West Noble's coach, credit. They were all in it for kids, and we're looking out as far as what would be the best for kids, and it worked well.
Why don't you talk a little bit about what goes into having reschedule that stuff? You have to worry about press box workers, you have to worry about the chain gang, getting officials back to do the game.
That's probably the first thing. As far as when the weather started, I started thinking a little bit about the officials, and actually I talked to the officials before the game because there was just a little bit of shakiness as far as the weather. And the crew that I had actually on Friday evening had commitments in central Indiana. A couple of them, Notre Dame did not help me out at all this weekend because a couple of them had
Yeah.
tickets to the Notre Dame game and commitments that way. I was very fortunate, though. We have a good network of officials, and I was able to get a hold of some officials pretty quickly. So that was the first step, and then from there, just hitting the cell phones are a godsend because I was able to hit the phone and get
Yeah.
people to replace people who couldn't be there, and it worked.
Yeah. Did you end up having to replace some, like press box workers and the chain gang and people like that too? or-
Yeah, very much so. In fact, I ran the scoreboard Saturday night
Oh, did
because
you?
my scoreboard person was out of town, and it's just one of those things. You just pitch in and do what you can, and we made it work.
Yeah. There's not much you can really do in that situation because you can't play because of the lightning. You have to, think of the safety of the kids and the fans.
Exactly. And the rules, a lot of people still don't understand the fact that the national rules now are not just the fact that you see the lightning, but if you hear the thunder. And as soon as you hear it, the clock starts on 30 minutes.
Right.
If you get to minute number 29 and you haven't seen anything, and then there's another clap of thunder, restart the clock.
Yeah. I know I had a situation a couple years ago over at Concord with the Concord Gymtown game where that happened. They went through the 30-minute delay, got the kids out of the field, started warming up. about 5 minutes into it, another bolt of lightning, so they had to pull everybody off the field again. Yeah, at that point, then they decided to cancel the, suspend
And that was
the
one of
game.
the points in the discussion was, could we bring the kids out and then play beyond that? And we kept watching the radar. Kind of feel like I should have gotten a little more as far as meteorology in college, as far as the classes, and try to figure out what was going on. But we decided that it was not fair to kids to bring them out and have that scenario where you bring them out and then have to take them back in. It was just not conducive.
Right. Plus, West Noble's not that far away from me, but you are getting to a point where if you start the game late enough, it's going to be pretty late when some of those kids are going to be getting home.
Well, that was one of the points of discussion. Like I say, the coaches were great about it because that was their first concern. They said if we start beyond a certain point, it's not going to be safe for kids or fans to go home. And so it made the decision real easy.
Yeah. What was it like coming back and playing on Saturday then?
It was a different feeling. In fact, one of the people up in the press box kind of commented it had a little bit of a collegiate feel to it because of coming in on a Saturday, but also, quite honestly, a little bit of a JV feel because the crowd was reduced. I mean, we had kids involved with our band was off at a competition on Saturday night, which that's their night and that's exactly what they should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But you had people that were at Notre Dame. You had people everywhere. So the crowd was reduced. There was no doubt about it. But in the end, again, for the players, for the teams, it was the best thing that we could do.
Yeah. One of the things when I went out this week and talked to Kyle Park out at Goshen, because Goshen restarted their game at 11 o'clock Saturday morning. And that was one of the things that Kyle told me, is he said it reminded him of when he played college football up at Ferris State.
Sure.
He said the sun shining, he said there were clouds in the sky. He said it was more like a fall afternoon. It reminded him of his college time.
Yep.
So.
And if we'd had our ideal situation, we would have gone the same way, but we were also fighting as far as West Noble had a huge cross-country invitational. All their people were committed to helping out over there, which I understand completely. And you do have to work with your fellow schools, and so it was
Right.
the best thing we could do.
And that is a huge cross-country invitational down there. I mean, they bring schools in from all over,
Yeah.
and not just high schools, but they run JV races, they run middle school races. They have a lot of kids involved in that.
Exactly. So,
So-
it was the best thing we could do in the end.
Yeah. And then once you got the game going then Saturday night, it turned out to be a pretty good game for one Fairfield Senior, Mitch DeWitt.
It was amazing. I was tickled for Mitch. He works extremely hard, and he's been fighting some injuries this year.
Yeah.
But to see him go out there and be able to perform at that level, and quite honestly, to see the other kids make it happen for him. I mean, they were just as excited, but they were a big part of
Yeah.
that too, and it just worked out great.
Yeah. I mean, he scored 6 touchdowns in a game. That's pretty good.
That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. In fact, you probably know this, he was one short of the school record out there, held by Jamie Matthews against Cherubusco back in 1996.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. It's a pretty rare air for Mitch, and he's, like I say, he's worked hard for that.
Yeah, he has. And he, like you said, he has been fighting some injuries, and so.
It's nice to see him get that kind of success. And like I say, with the other kids that were involved in making it happen, and it didn't just happen on offense. I mean, he had an interception return for a touchdown.
That's right.
And that's his versatility.
Because I think he also catch a pass for a touchdown
Yep,
too?
there was a pass catch. That was early. In fact, that was set up as far as Friday night, and the Friday night portion of it.
Part one.
Yeah, as I say, 24 and a half hour game, whatever you want to say
Yeah.
that way.
Because you guys, I still don't know how we got to the 10:25 minute of the second quarter at Goshen. Because you guys only got to, what, 55 seconds of your game?
Exactly. It was one of those things, and again, there was no lightning visible, but it was the sound. In fact, it was kind of funny because both head coaches ran to the field because they heard it over their headphones first. The officials had kind of heard it. I was a little suspicious that it was going, but we also had New Paris Speedway having practice sessions going on. And so we were hearing the rumble of the cars as well. So it was a combination of things, but we had to do it. There was no way around it.
Yeah. Well, I was sitting in the press box at Goshen, and we actually heard a lightning strike. We knew it was close because we heard the boom. And when I got to the school Saturday for the resumption of the game, I found out how close it was. A lightning had struck a pole out in front of the high school, so we were probably within about a half mile of a lightning strike there.
That's scary.
That is scary, yeah, because we were sitting there in the press box.
And especially when you consider the football players are out there, they have metal-tipped cleats. Metal's very conducive to electricity, and so that is a huge concern.
Yeah. Okay. Well, another strong program out at your place for years has been the volleyball program.
Yeah, and we've got a young coach, Callie Patrick's come in and done a very nice job for us. Very tough situation. I mean, we had Carla Hirschberger. We've often talked about how tough it is in our school to replace a legend. Carla was basically, she worked hard to make that program to where it was, and she was the legend. So when she decided to step down, it was tough shoes to fill in. And Callie's done a nice job. She's worked very hard at it. And the kids have also done a great job as far as adjusting, because no matter who's in there, their things are going to be different. And it's going to take some time to get used to just some little nuances that a coach is going to do. Kids have adjusted well, and things have been really going well. We've got a young team out there, but we've got a mix as far as young and old, and they're starting to mesh together well.
Yeah. And I mean, Carla was not only a legend at your school, she also took Westview to the state finals one year in volleyball too.
Exactly.
So not a lot of coaches can say they took 2 different schools to the state finals.
And a great person. I mean, a great person as far as her kids. When you look as far as her kids academically, and Callie's done a nice job as far as encouraging that with their kids academically. They are so strong. It's amazing. And we had last year, as far as we started instituting an award for the team with the best grade point average in the school. And I had a pretty good idea where it was going, and it went to the volleyball program. And those kids, they work hard. And you work hard in the classroom, it's going to carry over onto the court, onto the field. It's proven time and time again. Yeah. And those girls continue to move that way. They're doing a great job.
That was one thing I expressed to Larry Kissinger when we had him, the Goshen AD, when we had him in last week. I've always been impressed with the fact when I go out there for whether it's the fall, spring, or the winter awards programs, how many kids of theirs get academic awards also besides their athletic ones.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, time and time again, studies have proven kids in season versus kids out of season, they perform much better in the classroom. It's because they have to have discipline. They really you got to plan your time, and when you have that extra time, sometimes that changes things. So I've been impressed with our kids time and time again as far as what they do while they're in season.
Yeah, and I always say they're getting the student athlete portion in the right priority.
Exactly.
Because a lot of these kids, they're not going to go on beyond maybe into college to play sports, but most of them are not going to go on professionally or anywhere like that. So
yeah, you've got to get your academics in order.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting for me to watch. We carry it over into our junior high as well. In fact, I just had a situation where a kid had to sit a game Tuesday night because his grades weren't in order. And he came in today, brought me the note from the teacher, his grades are up, and to see the smile on that kid's face, the kid's got it. And I really believe, I've seen this happen time and time again with junior high kids, when they struggle and they realize all of a sudden, I have to perform in the classroom, it's amazing what they do from then on, and I have no doubt he'll be fine for the rest of the year.
Good. And the volleyball team had a very interesting match Tuesday night with the Northridge Raiders there. It went to 5 sets.
Yeah. And they've been making a habit of it in recent times. We had Goshen in 5 sets the other night a week ago over at Fairfield. And I think those matches, while they may be very stressful for the rest of us to sit there and watch, in the long run, the kids are going to be battle tested. And I think it's going to pay dividends for them down the line.
Right. The one thing I was impressed by the girls, they got down to Northridge in that 4th set 12-0 and came back, and they ended up losing the set like 25-19.
But it was competitive.
It was competitive, yeah.
And I think that carried over into the 5th set. And, I've often talked as far as that is so difficult for a team to lose set 4 and then to come back. And our girls came back and really, I don't want to say they dominated, but they took charge of that 5th set and were in control throughout. I mean, it was maybe a 4-point difference, but they were still doing what it took, and they did a great job. I was pleased.
Yeah. I mean, I've always felt that volleyball is one of the biggest sports as far as momentum swings, especially with this rally scoring that they have now.
It makes things a lot more difficult on the kids because, I was talking Tuesday night, when a team seems to get one of these famous points we talk about is 23. When a team hits 23, all of a sudden, if you get a side out and the other team's serving with 24, they're 1 point away. And that 23 seems to become a key point. Yeah. And it's been amazing watching teams when they hit that. But like I say, that match on Tuesday, who knew where it was going to head ultimately? Our kids did a nice job of keeping their heads on. I was excited for them. I
mean, to get down 12-0 like that and to fight back in and still make it a competitive game.
And then to come into Game 5 that way. And that I think that speaks a lot, though, as far as our schedule with our volleyball program. I mean, I would stack our schedule up against anybody. I was looking last night. We played Yorktown down at a Delta Invitational. We went to Delta, where Delta's ranked high in 3A. Yorktown right now is ranked number 9 in the country. And we played them. So, here we are, little old Fairfield, playing a team that's number 9 in the country. And we went down there. I mean, Yorktown's good. They beat us, but we were competitive. And I think that's going to pay dividends for us. I mean, we don't shirk away from anybody as far as playing our schedule. We play Elkhart Memorial next week, another traditional power. Oh, yeah. I really think those are the matches that are why we perform at the conference tournament, why we perform in the sectional tournament as well as we have.
And that's going back to what you're trying to do with the football program.
Exactly.
Scheduling Goshen and Northwood to get you guys ready for that
And it's a philosophy that I picked up a lot from coaches when I was in school. When I was at Fairfield, our coaches kept saying, yeah, you're going to sit there and you're going to get beat by some of these better people, but what is your ultimate goal? Is it to be Fairfield good, or is it to be good on a statewide level? And it does make a difference when you compete against the best.
Yeah. I remember talking about Miller several times about that, and he said, we don't want to be Fairfield good. He said, we want to be Jimtown good. Because for years, Jimtown has been the state power around here.
And that goes back to Bob and I both had John Weaver, used to coach at Northridge. He was at Fairfield. He was our coach. And he really impressed on us, helped me as a coach when I was up at Northridge that way, impressed on us the idea that you want to sit there and test yourself. If you just sit there, for lack of a better term, beat up on the sisters of the poor, it's not going to pay off in the long run.
Right.
So.
And you have to wonder about some of these college teams, the 1A, the Division A schools that are playing 1AA schools or some schools like that. What do they really gain from that?
I have no idea other than they may game an extra home game, but does that ultimately help you towards your goal? I question that.
Yeah. Okay. Another program that's been traditionally strong out at Fairfield has been your cross-country programs.
Yeah.
Now you got Chris Hall running the girls this year.
Boys.
The boys, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And Kurt Hunsberger doing the girls.
Yeah,
Right?
and they've been working hard. I mean, cross country is one of those sports. Those kids, I give them so much credit because they are kind of in the shadows. They don't get the limelight. Cross country's been a puzzling sport for me though, because I've seen lately a shift as far as the attitude, and I think it's the bigger programs that are driving some of this to where we only compete on Saturdays. They want to compete on Saturdays, and we've tried to add some weeknight meets to our schedule to get the kids some recognition at their school, because there are, quite honestly, some situations where I know schools, we were one of them the last few years, with no home meets. And so they don't get a chance to perform in front of their peers. And that concerns me. And I think that's part of why numbers, if you look across the state and cross country, the numbers are down. And I think that's a concern of mine, quite honestly. Our coaches have tried to do such a good job. I really am pleased with the idea that they are with me on the idea that we need some weeknight meets, need to get some meets at home, because it does. The kids want recognition within their peers. And how do I say it? Right now, it's not happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, I noticed there are one or two schools in the area that is basically all they do is go to the big invitationals on Saturdays, and that's the only time they run.
And that's one of the philosophies that a majority of our conference right now has, that philosophy, unfortunately. And so we're scrambling for meets as far as weeknights, and we try to do it as much as we can, but it's tough.
Yeah. I don't know, what do coaches think they're gaining from that?
I think they're going with the collegiate philosophy that if we run on Saturdays, we can train through the week. And we're building a base, trying to build a little bit of the swimming philosophy as far as building that taper at the end of the season. And so you'll watch some of the schools, if they do have a weeknight meet, I've seen them go out and run their JV teams. They have their varsity kids go off and do a workout and not even run. And so I don't know, my fear, I'm very concerned for cross country in the future, because I keep seeing these numbers slowly but surely moving lower and lower. And some of your powers that have had 50 and 60 kids in their program, they're lucky to have 15 or 20. And so it's a tough one. Like I say, those kids, I give them so much credit because they work hard. And anybody that says across country, right, oh, they just go out and run. If you really delve into it, it's a lot more than that. They've got to think about, what is it going to take to get me better? And again, I want them peaking at the end of the season, but what is it going to take to make me a better runner?
I've got respect for anybody that'll go out and run 2.5 miles. I mean, I don't get it trying to just run distance like that, but
it's a difficult sport, and
it is.
Like I say, I give all the credit in the world. I mean, we've got Chris came in and took over. Rustin Nice, who's now off at Goshen College. Chris came in and took over our boys program, has worked well with them, and then Kurt Hunsberger's been a legend and has coached forever. It seems like, but he's done a great job.
Chris is a good young guy too, and
Yeah.
I know he was at Northridge. I don't know how he ended up at Fairfield there.
Their family lives in our district, actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's kind of neat.
There you go. And another sport that seems to be having some declining numbers is girls golf. I don't know a lot of schools in this area seem to have declining numbers in that.
It's been a struggle. I mean, we've been one of the smaller golf programs, but we've had quite a bit of success in our girls golf program.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that has hurt us over the last few years, quite honestly, Timber Ridge Golf Club in our district is no more. And so we have no golf course as far as a full 18-hole course in our school district. So that's made it tough, but I also see some junior high girls with the potential being there.
Well, that's good.
So I'm hopeful.
I know there were a lot of times you had, 2 golfers this year?
Yeah, we had two girls golfers, and I give those girls so much credit
Yeah.
because of the fact they were out there, they were the team. And so we had a situation one time where both of them were sick. We didn't go to a meet because of two kids sick, and then you're out.
That's bad when you get two golfers and they both get sick at the same time.
So yeah, those girls did a nice job, and I have, like I say, I have so much respect for them
Yeah, you got to give them credit for being willing to go out there
and to work at it.
and to work at it. Yeah. Okay. And last but not least, another program that's been strong there is the boys tennis program under Mike Filbrin.
Mike has just done a fantastic job. If you ever watch Mike Filbrin, high energy to no end. I mean, you watch him at an awards night program, and I just go, I'm amazed as far as seeing him. You know, this year our record is a little bit lower than what it's been in the past. I
Right.
will acknowledge that right up. But we've got a lot of kids who are playing way up with what they've had to do in the past, and so they're having to adjust playing up a slot. Like, it doesn't seem like much if you move from a number 2 to a number 1 single, but if you're at number 1 singles, you are seeing the best that school has every time. Number 1
Right.
doubles, they're seeing the best that school has, so they're not going to get slouches no matter, it may be a team that's weak, but they're having to play the best of the best in there. And so those kids have worked to get the program. I mean, it's been a year in and year out, it's been doing very well for us. And for them to quote unquote struggle this year, if that's a struggle, I would love to be a coaching a team that's struggling like that.
Yeah, because I think they've lost, what, one conference match, I believe, or something?
Actually, we lost 3 now.
Have they lost 3? Okay.
Which is real unusual. But
Yeah.
like I say, if that's a struggle, I'll take it.
You'll take that every year,
Yeah.
won't you? Okay. All right, Mark, anything else about the state of Fairfield athletics right now?
No, it's just, I think our key word that I keep talking to the coaches right now is patience. You've been around as far as the construction project going on at the school.
Yes.
Good things are going to happen, but we just got to get through this fall, get through the winter and spring next year. And there is some good gold at the end of the rainbow, and we'll get there to that pot of gold. But it's been tough, and I give the kids, the fans, the families so much credit because they've adjusted well. I think sometimes us as adults can learn from them as far as how to adjust. But we're going to get some good things out of that building project, and so
Good.
we'll be there. So it's going
Good.
to help.
Good. Okay.
I got a couple quick things I want
Sure.
to shoot off real quick
Sure.
before we wrap up here. Going back to football real
Yeah.
quick, what do you have a cutoff time in mind, or is that very, when you have the weather like this, is it we
There-
can't kick off after 9:30, 10?
There's
or
no
is it
there's a
variable?
kind of a fallacy out there that some people think the state has an absolute limit. There is not. So they go back to trust the administrator's judgment. I would say we talked as far as before, as soon as the lightning delay came in, we talked with the coaches, with Tom Skimmerhorn over or West Noble, excuse me. And we had decided that there was no way after 10 o'clock we could start because we wanted to have, the game had to be done well before midnight. That was kind of our first thought process. But by the time we got to 8:15, 8:30, and there was no hope in sight that we could get, and we were not going to just play like a quarter and then come back. We thought if we're going to have to come back, we'll finish it. We're not just going to play bits and pieces. And so that's kind of what was our thinking. I've seen some schools, my brother was one of them, up at Valparaiso last year where they kicked off after midnight. Their time, Homestead left Valparaiso about 3 a.m. They were playing Homestead that night, left about 3 a.m. and got back home about 5. That's, to me, I understand there's distances involved, and I understand my brother was thinking, but big brother says little brother, I don't know that I would have ever done that.
And then just the policy for your fans when you have that happen. Do you guys make them clear the stadium? Because
What-
in Goshen, I believe the students, I think they said had to leave.
Yeah.
Maybe they made everybody did end up leaving because it was crazy.
Yeah.
But
Initially,
you guys
we
make
announced
them leave the
it.
stadium, or
Initially,
just
what we
stay
did is
on?
we told the fans, this is the national rule. We'll keep you posted. As we started seeing things getting closer, then we started telling people you had to leave. We had places, we had the gyms for the teams reserved. We encouraged fans initially, and most people took us right away and went back to their cars. We had the school available, so we had places as far as shelter that we could do. And my press box crew stayed up in the press box through that. I was really amazed.
Well, that's
And
what we
it's a-
did at Goshen, too. And
Yeah, it's a big building. It's safe in there, but I don't think I would have stayed out there myself. But we did. There was a point. Yes, there was a drop dead point where we said get out of here because it was coming. But we kind of left it to judgment as far as people initially because it was just sound initially that we were on. We did tell people to start moving away from the bleachers though because they're metal bleachers, and that concerned me too.
Right.
I knew we were in trouble when I looked at the weather radar and I saw a storm coming to us that was dumping rain at the rate of 1.91 inches per hour.
Yeah, and if it's dumping that much rain, you know there's got to be more with it than just
Yes.
rain.
And then just another thing real quick. I'm sure you heard of the San Antonio football players that lost their mind and went against the ref and everything. Just from your perspective as an athletic director, what was your thoughts on seeing that all play out?
oh, you go through the range of emotions. I mean, your first thing you look at that and you're thinking, what in the world? You get angry. It really puts a bad reputation on sports. But then you also try to look a little bit as an athletic director. You think to myself, what precipitated it? And I don't think you've gotten to the bottom of the story yet. I mean, you're getting a lot of he said, she said. I mean, it's obvious from the videotape of it that something was seriously wrong. I mean, the first player hitting him, it looked bad. The second player definitely made it. That there was an intent to harm that official. I do think they need to take a little bit closer look whether the kids, I don't think the kids could just be influenced by a coach alone, but I do think coaches have a part of that too, and they've got to take some responsibility, if nothing else, to step in before it happens, some preventative coaching.
And they say it was an assistant coach allegedly that's at least taking the fall for it, and that just, honest last thing this time, that's always been something that interested me just at the high school levels. What's the vetting process like for these assistants? Because I know, I mean, just in my experience at so many places, especially in football, it just seems to be, you have cases where it's the head coach's buddy, his childhood friend, the guy from down the street.
The state of Indiana has now started requiring coaches' education before you even start. So I think that's the first thing. We try to vet them as far as, personal knowledge. They have to go through, the head coach recommends to me, I recommend to the principal, who recommends to the superintendent of the school board. So there is a process that we do background checks on them. Try to check as far as references to make sure that they actually pan out if they're not from our area. Personal knowledge, I mean, I feel like I'm connected pretty well with the athletic directors in this area, and we do a lot of checks. It's amazing when you start to widen out beyond this area anymore what you can find. And I'll be honest, the internet's another place where you can find a lot of people. And I try to teach kids this, because if you sit there and look and, for lack of a better thing, Google their name, it's amazing what you find on them. And some of these guys who try to sit there and apply for stuff when they should have no business doing that, it shows up. And like I say, we do criminal history checks, but on Google you're going to find a lot more than probably people want to find. And so I feel like we try to vet those very, very seriously, and we take it very seriously.
Okay. All right, well, Mark, thanks for coming in this week and joining us on the Goshen News Sports Prep Roundtable. And that concludes another episode, folks. We will see you next week.